everyone, my name is Tina and welcome to the G-Sport Hub. We have made so much content this week, from the finals highlights to interview translations to PCL co-streams to solo queue streams. So if there is a PCS fan who's really curious about the teams going to the PCS Playoffs, there is literally hours of content to watch, which is a lot. And it's not too digestible, I know. That's why I wanted to make something of a more condensed version of all the three teams. This is for PCS fans, LCO fans, or anyone who's just curious about the three teams appearing in the PCS playoffs next week. So without further ado, let's start with V3 Esports, or third seed team. If you have been following League of Legends for a while, first of all, you could have heard about V3 Esports in 2020 when they actually beat DFM in the finals, advancing to Worlds. That was finally DFM Dynasty that they just ended there. But after that, V3 has completely changed. Again, if you have been following League of Legends for a while now, you have probably heard of. Currently, that team holds the most losses in a row in League of Legends. Not in esports, because that's Shanghai Dragons, who eventually actually won Overwatch League, so there's a chance for V3 as well in the future. But for now, what you need to know is they were a 5 Japanese team, and that wasn't even a problem because they have been stomping Academy. The only problem was when they promoted their Academy team, it was without their AD carry, who you may be familiar with because I'm going to talk about him a little bit later. That's Marble played on that V3 roster with Academy, who won everything possible. But Marble was signed to SHG immediately, and the problem was this team was just not LGR ready. It's not the best situation they were in, but even last year there were some little sparkles. First of all, the jungler Hiroki. So I could talk about Hiroki for days, which is also funny since there's now a new meme. The PCS Twitter is posting little infographics of each team. And while for Tana, his infograph was he's leading in gear participation, damage percent, and total solo kills. He has 100% win rate with 1000 DPM on Jace. Then for Hiroki, it was a little bit different. He's the only Japanese jungler, one of the few Japanese junglers to play in international competition. And finally, he has a unique and cool hairstyle. I don't know who wrote this, but he's such an interesting player, a lot more than that. So let's talk about Hiroki first. He has been with V3 for a while now, and even last year when they were not doing great, Hiroki has been a really good jungler. Some of the moments they were shining, it was Hiroki, and even Ace in the mid lane, who used to coach for V3 after he retired, but because the team wasn't really doing well, he came back to V3 as a player and still playing for them. So these two members were looking really good last year. Keep in mind, this is a team who always run 5 Japanese players. For 2024, they have signed Tana on the top lane and Bini, a bot laner, both of them Koreans. But Tana speaks fluent Japanese, so no communication issues there. And their bot lane with Bini and Hatal is not the best, let's be honest. The bot lane is not necessarily the strongest. This team is heavily focusing on the top side. So Tana on the top lane, besides everything that the PCS account was saying, he has unique champions. Yes, he's by far the most fun top laner for me personally. He has been playing things like Cassiopeia top lane, so nothing is off limit for him. I think the top side is what everyone should look for. And as I said, Hiroki is such a pleasant surprise for me. I think his improvement is massive throughout the years. He has grinded Apex Champions queue this year. He actually made a lot of friends among the PCS players. So for all of the PCS fans, if you watch some of the highlights that we uploaded on our YouTube channel, then you may even find players who you are rooting for from the PCS. And by the way, Hiroki can shot call in Mandarin. Yes, whenever he was playing with other players from the PCS, he was shot calling in Mandarin. A really versatile player. I really like his playstyle, and I think for V3, what you should look for is the top side. With that being said, V3 is only our third seed, and there is somewhat of a sizable gap between the third and the second. So let's talk about second, DFM. For a lot of people, it was surprising that DFM got second, and even though I did predict the Hawks to be first before the season and before the finals as well, I have to say DFM looked much worse than I originally thought they would. It's not as bad as during MSI, when now we know that the team had an actual mental breakdown, so it's not as bad as then, but there are not that many updates. I have seen this team a lot of times, and that's slightly varying. So we'll see how the DFM does against J team. I think Frank has their number, but Frank also looked really shaky. I have no idea what's wrong with them. What you should know about DFM, who doesn't know about DFM? Only difference is top laner Ray Farkey, basically, from some of these previous iterations. Issy and Abby No, but not even the current Abby is the Abby who was almost destroying Donvan with the Nurgat. So no one is on that peak. But I think both Abby and Ray Farkey are doing fine. None of them were really the focus of either of the teams. And as for Ray Farkey, he had a few bad games. He had a very bad game on Gwen in the semifinals. And in the finals, he was mostly just invisible. I don't think he's gonna lose lane like Upperman did during Worlds, but I also don't think DFM is really gonna play through top lane. DFM lives or dies by Arya and Yutapon. And you could see against these three in the semifinals, Arya and Yutapon had a phenomenal match. They won the game easily. In the finals, Arya and Yutapon had a really off day. They were caught out a lot of times, and whenever they are not performing, DFM is just lost. And as for Steel and Harp, especially recently, I feel like their international performance has been not great by any means. Especially Harp has some nerve issues. I mean, he did say, for example, playing against Loud in MSI, how just the sheer amount of fans were kind of shocking to him, this is how it's like being a pro. So he has to get used to it. Even at Worlds, he didn't look great. No one from DFM did. So that is my biggest question. Obviously, the opponents here are not going to be as strong as at Worlds. I talked about how basically DFM needs to be a J team, either in the upper bracket or in the lower bracket, but they have to be a J team. So I think that match is what everyone should look forward to. If they beat J team comfortably, I think they have a good chance of actually getting to the stage 2. If they're struggling hard, if you see there is no chance they ever beating J team, then this actually may just be the end of the DFM dynasty. And the team who dethroned them, obviously, let's talk about the HAWKS. Officially, Fukuoka SoftBank HAWKS Gaming. If you're a global fan who's looking at this team, there is one name who's everyone gonna recognize. That's the top laner, Abby. And this was by far the biggest signing of the off-season. And the thing is, Abby is not necessarily the main focus of this team. Of course, he has played things like the top lane Smolder, just the semifinals. Of course, his interviews are still super fun. Of course, he's saying things like he's ready to counter anything. Of course, he's still the Abby that everyone loves. But this team is not really around him as much as Dasher. Dasher, their mid laner, is a franchise player. He has been with the HAWKS ever since they created the team. He joined them after the team got USG spot, and actually with a lot of other people went from USG to the HAWKS. And ever since then, he's been there. The HAWKS, since joining the LGL, just wanted to build a super team. That was their goal, and they had the budget because they are the SoftBank HAWKS. In case you don't know, that's the SoftBank HAWKS, the baseball team. They are definitely a rich organization. At one point, they had Kinetsu, they had Marble, who are the biggest academy prospects. They had Blank, the world champion jungler. A lot of people, including me, have already predicted them to win last year. But that time, if you remember, with Yutapon top lane, DFM still came out stronger. SHG still had some nerve issues, in my opinion. Some of their players, like Marble, has never even played on a stage before, and besides everything, they got 2 new members this year, on the top lane Abby and jungle Forest. And while obviously after a split, Forest's Japanese is much better.
그것보다도 그냥 우리가 소통보다도 우리가 스크린 계속 진행하면서 우리 생각을 맞추는 플레이를 하다 보면 굳이 정교한 소통 없이도
This is actually a theory that people like LS has been pushing for a while now, that League has its own language and you don't necessarily need to speak the same human language to see League the same way. I think it's working. I think they're on the same page. And yes, that's the name I just said, Forest, who is a super aggressive jungler. He was somewhat infamous in LCK that he is just always going in, kind of like an MLXG type of player if you know him from the LPL. But this is basically what SHG needed. They just needed everyone to be on this wavelength. Because another player they have, another hyper-aggressive player, is their support, Vista. Now, this is the same Vista who loved playing the AD carry supports last year. He's the one who was dominating LGL with a Belvet support last year as well, to a point where teams had to ban the Belvet against him. To a degree, when the AD carry Marble even said in an interview, in reality, Vista is kind of the player who is always like, go in, and Marble is just following him. So this is the team we have right now, and if we go by the finals, they are on the same page, they are strong on paper, and in actual execution, they look strong as well. With that being said, for a lot of those players, this is the first international international tournament. This is the first time they're traveling for an event. So I don't know how exactly they would do in round 2, especially when they're playing against powerhouses such as PSG or CFO. PCS only having 1 seed is, I think, criminal, but even then I really hope that all teams can put up a great fight. Even if can't take a full match, I really hope at least they show they're on the same level. As for DFM, I really hope they can get to stage 2. I think if they can fix their issues that they showed in the finals, then they have a chance to do that. And as for these 3, even though I don't expect them to win against PCS teams, I really hope they can at least show a fight, and they're likely gonna play against LCO team Ground Zero. If they can beat Ground Zero, that's already a really good achievement in my opinion. So that's for all the teams, but if you're curious about more, you can always just DM the G Sport Hub Twitter. I am happy to talk hours about the Agile teams. We're also gonna live view stage 1, similar to the Agile finals. After that success, we're gonna continue a live viewing in the PCS Playoffs. For all information, just go to the G Sport Hub Twitch channel and type !live view, and through that link you can watch the live viewings with me and the PCS cast. 2 more very quick things. First of all, we do have a Patreon, so if you can and want to support us, you can do over there. And second of all, we are on every single social media. It's at @GSportHub. For the latest and greatest information, that's your best spot. But dear PCS fans, dear LCO fans, and dear global fans, anyone who's watching this video, I really hope I was able to show you some fun insight, and I really hope it made you interested in these teams. That was it from me today, and see you in one of our streams. Bye bye!